Hello everybody, and welcome to Mastering IELTS Writing Task 2 from the IELTS Teacher. It's great to meet you. My name is Matt and I'm going to be your teacher for the duration of this course. A little bit about me before we begin. I've been teaching English since 2008, and in 2013 I set up my own website to exclusively help students to prepare for the IELTS exam. This website is called The IELTS Teacher, theieltsteacher.com, and it is one of the leading websites for Skype-based IELTS tuition. So if you would like to speak to a tutor rather than just be taught through a video course, then check out theieltsteacher.com and get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. So let me introduce you to the course. First of all, who is the course for? Well, if you're aiming to achieve a band 7 or above in IELTS writing, this course is for you. Even if you're aiming to achieve a 6.5, you will find something useful here. But even if you're at a band 7 level already and you're aiming to achieve a 7.5 or an 8, then this course is still going to be very, very helpful. How is the course structured? Well, there are 7 sections in this course, each designed to improve your writing and help you master the Task 2 essay. Why does the course work? Well, the course works because it covers everything. Every paragraph, every sentence, every tip, every technique, every brand descriptor, everything. So let's look in a bit more detail at how the course is structured. We start in this section here, which is the introduction. The introduction to the course, the introduction to IELTS, and an introduction to the IELTS writing band descriptors. Following on from that, we look at how to approach the essay. Before we even start writing, we need to think about things like the different question types, how to plan and time your essay, what to do about the word counts, and we'll also check out a model answer to see what a typical band 7 response looks like. After that, we'll talk about coherence and cohesion, 25% of your score, looking at things like the introduction and the conclusion, body paragraphs, cohesive devices, referencing. After that, we'll think about task achievement and task response, so how to find ideas, how to develop those ideas, how to avoid generalizations, how to create and maintain a position. So each of the previous 2 sections are all about improving your marks in each of the different band descriptor categories: coherence and cohesion, task response or task achievement, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. And that's what the following 2 sections are about: improving your vocabulary, paraphrasing, range, collocations, and then improving your range and accuracy of grammar. How to write simple sentences accurately, how to introduce complex sentences, things like relative clauses and conditionals, which will help your score go from a band 7 to a band 8. And then finally, we have a conclusion where we just summarize what we've learnt and talk about how you can study effectively on your own. And one way that you can study effectively on your own is to actually have your writing corrected by a professional IELTS tutor. So you may want to think about taking IELTS writing corrections from the IELTSteacher.com. There will be a 10% discount code given to you at the end of this course. So that will allow you to practice your writing and have your work corrected by somebody who knows exactly how the IELTS writing test is examined. How should you approach this course? My recommendation is to complete this course within 4 weeks so that you are able to use everything you have learnt and not forget too much about it. However, if you have responsibilities, do take your time. To make the most out of this course, you should bring a hard-working attitude to every lecture, maybe take some notes. Apply what you have learnt to self-study practice. It's very important that you take the initiative and do some self-study practice as well. Try to read at least 2 articles or 2 book chapters in English every day This is going to be a recurring piece of advice throughout this course. Read, read, read. It will improve your writing as you start to understand the natural patterns behind written English. Find an IELTS writing tutor to check your work. As I mentioned, the IELTSteacher.com offers writing corrections. There are other websites out there that do it too, but do make sure that you're trying to find someone who can let you know where you are going wrong and what you are doing right. Try to enjoy the writing process. It can actually be quite fun when you fully throw yourself into it. Welcome back to the course, everybody. Today what we're going to look at is an introduction to IELTS, the whole IELTS exam, not just the writing portion but the whole exam. So a warning before we begin: if you have knowledge of the IELTS exam, if you have an understanding of it, you know how it works, you know how it's structured, then you can skip this lecture. You won't be missing out on anything. It's just for those students who have not done the test before, they're not very confident about the structure. So if you have done the test before, you know exactly how it's structured, then just skip to the next lecture. So for those of you that don't know much about the IELTS exam, then this lecture will bring you up to speed. So what is IELTS? IELTS is an acronym and it stands for the International English Language Testing System. IELTS. It's not IELTS. A lot of students confuse that with IELTS. It's IELTS, I-E-L-T-S. It is the world's most popular English language proficiency test, taken by millions of students every year. In fact, over 2 million tests are taken every year at the current rate, and it's rising all the time. It assesses all of your skills in English: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And it is an exam which is accepted by schools, universities, employers, and immigration authorities. But how is it structured? So here what we have is a general walkthrough. This looks a little bit intimidating, but we're going to take it a piece at a time. First of all, IELTS is separated into 2 modules. So you can either choose the academic module or the general training module. It really depends on your requirements. Often when you are applying for university, then you need to be doing the academic module. While if you are applying for visas for English-speaking countries, particularly with certain types of work, then you'll probably need the general training. Now, in this course, we are focusing on task 2 in the writing, and it doesn't really matter if you're doing the academic or if you're doing the general training module, because in both modules, in task 2 of the writing, we do an essay. Yes, the questions are slightly different. Yes, your approach can be slightly more informal and casual in the general training, but everything that we look at in this course is going to be relevant to both modules. So let's have a look at the exam itself. The exam starts with the listening component, and in the listening component you have 30 minutes plus 10 minutes for transferring your answers, and you have 4 sections. There are 10 questions in each section, which makes up 40 questions altogether. Some important points to keep in mind: only use a pencil, and remember that the audio is played once only. It will not be repeated for you. After the listening comes the reading test. You have 1 hour for the reading test, although you should try to save 10 minutes at the end for transferring your answers to the answer sheet. There are 3 sections, and there are 40 questions divided among those sections. Again, answer in pencil only. After the reading test comes the test that we're interested in, which is the writing test. Again, you have 1 hour for the writing, and they recommend 20 minutes for task 1, where if you are doing the academic writing, then you will be describing a graph or a diagram or a process or a map. And if you're doing the general training writing, then you will be writing a letter in task 1. And then they give you 40 minutes for task 2, which is the essay. So 2 tasks, 2 questions, 1 question in each task. Some important points. For task 1, the minimum word count is 150 words. There is no maximum, but as we will speak about, it's good to try and keep it as close to the minimum as possible. So 150 words in task 1 and 250 words minimum in task 2. Finally, the speaking exam. This takes roughly 11 to 14 minutes depending on your answers and depending on the examiner. There are 3 parts with no set number of questions, and in part 1 you will have a general casual interview, some pretty basic questions about your work, your education, where you live. In part 2 you will have to speak about a particular topic for 1 to 2 minutes, and then in part 3 you will have a discussion about that topic. It gets progressively more difficult as you go along. So that is the IELTS exam in a nutshell. And how is it scored? Firstly, there is no pass or fail in IELTS. If you ever hear me talking about passing the exam, all I mean is that somebody has got the score that they require, or that they haven't, in which case they fail. But of course there is no fail in IELTS. You are graded in each component, and the average gives you your score. So let's imagine you have a 6 in listening, a 7 in reading, a 6 in writing, and a 7 in speaking. So your overall score is a 6.5, as that is the average of all 4 components. IELTS scores are valid for 2 years after certification. Keep that in mind when you are applying for immigration or applying for universities. Some people forget about that. If you know your CEFR score, C2, C1, B1, B2, then you can apply it to this little table here where you can match up your expected IELTS band score with your CEFR score. Finally, IELTS score requirements. Different institutions require different scores. So look at this as a general guide, not as a comprehensive and perfect guide. So, in general, a 5.5 to a 6 will give you entry to a university foundation course, while a 6 to a 6.5 will give you entry to a bachelor's degree course. A 6.5 to a 7 may give you entry to a master's degree course, and a 7 and above, these scores are typically required to work in English-speaking countries in professions such as medicine, law, accounting, and academic research. But as I mentioned, different institutions will take different scores, so do make sure you research and find out exactly what you need in order to apply for your chosen institution or visa. I hope you found this lecture useful and it's given you a good idea of the IELTS exam in general if you didn't know before. If you do have any questions, do leave them in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hello again everybody. In this lecture what we're going to do is have a very quick look at writing task 2 in just a bit more detail. Again, if you are comfortable that you know how task 2 is structured, just the general rules for this part of the exam, then you can skip this lecture and move on to the next one. But for those of you who haven't seen a task 2 question before, you don't know how this part of the exam is organized, then this lecture might be quite helpful. So just some key points here about task 2. There is a minimum word count of 250 words. There is no maximum word count, so you can write as many words as you like over 250, but bear in mind that there is a 40-minute time limit. So you do want to finish the essay in time. That's why it can be a good idea to get as close to 250 words as possible without going under that word count. Task 2 is worth twice as many points as task 1, so it's much more important that you focus your effort and attention on task 2. This is why they say you should work for 40 minutes on task 2 and 20 minutes on task 1 to make up the full hour. There are 4 different question types. They are the opinion essay, the discussion opinion essay, the discussion essay, and the situation essay. We're not going to look at the different question types in this lecture, but we will look at them in a lecture in the approach section of the course. Now you can write in either pen or pencil. It's not like the listening and the reading where you must write in pencil. And finally, with the general training questions, they are essentially very similar to the academic module questions, but the way that they can be answered can be a little bit less formal, a little bit more informal than in the academic exam. So here are some examples of the type of questions that you would get asked in Task 2. Some experts believe that it is better for children to begin learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. Do the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? Some people believe that unpaid community service should be a compulsory part of high school programs. For example, working for a charity, improving the neighbourhood, or teaching sports to younger children. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So already we have 2 topics at work here. We have the idea of schools, education. We have the idea of languages. I suppose we also have the idea of community service. So lots of different topics being covered. A couple more examples. Some people say that the best way to improve public health is by increasing the number of sports facilities. Others, however, say that this would have little effect on public health and that other measures are required. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. And some people think that the teenage years are the happiest times of most people's lives. Others think that adult life brings more happiness in spite of greater responsibilities. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. So that last question there is actually from the general training module. So you can see that the 2 question types are not very different at all. They might look at slightly more informal topics, and like I said, they can be answered in a slightly more informal style, but they're essentially so similar that everything in this course can be applied to both modules. So that's it, a little brief look at how writing Task 2 is set up in the IELTS writing exam. And now we can get into a lecture on how writing Task 2 is graded. Welcome back everybody. In today's lecture we are going to focus on how the examiner grades and marks your IELTS writing Task 2 essay. We are specifically looking at how a Band 7 is graded, but if you are looking to achieve a Band 6 or a Band 8, it may be worthwhile going online and searching for the IELTS writing band descriptors, as that will make it clearer for you regarding what the examiners are looking for the specific bands. So, how to impress the IELTS examiner. Now, IELTS writing is assessed in 4 different categories, and each category contributes an equal percentage to your score. Now, there are 4 categories, each making up 25% to make 100. The first is task response, also called task achievement. The second is called coherence and cohesion. The third is called lexical resource. And the fourth is called grammatical range and accuracy. And what we're going to do in this lesson is to look at each of these categories in detail and how we can score a Band 7 for each one. So let's get started on task response. According to the official band descriptors, to achieve a Band 7 and above, you must address all parts of the task, present a clear position throughout the response, and present, extend, and support your main ideas. Now, what does that mean in plain English? Basically, write about everything in the question. Try to address all the key words. Make it clear what your opinion is, even if you are not sure about your opinion. You can say that, I do not fully agree with this, or I do not fully disagree with this. Develop your ideas and arguments. Explain your point, say why your points matter, and give examples to help the reader understand your ideas better. How about coherence and cohesion? Again, band 7, you must logically organize information and ideas. There must be a clear progression throughout the response. You must use a range of cohesive devices appropriately and present a clear central topic within each paragraph. Let's break that down. Your essay should be in a logical order. It should start with an introduction. If you're in a discussion question, you should start with the pros, move on to the cons, and then finish with a conclusion. It's different for different question types. We'll come on to that later. But this also applies to sentences within paragraphs. Always start with a topic sentence, for example. With cohesive devices, this essentially means link sentences and paragraphs and ideas with words like however, therefore, furthermore, in addition, in contrast, those sort of expressions. And one topic per paragraph. Stay focused on your idea. Try not to put in too many different ideas into a single paragraph. There should be one idea and it should be well developed. How about lexical resource? Now, what lexical resource means is basically vocabulary. So you need to use a sufficient range of vocabulary to allow some flexibility and precision. Use less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation. You may produce occasional errors in word choice, spelling, and word formation. Again, plain English here. Show a wide or flexible range of vocabulary. Essentially, use synonyms. Show your ability to paraphrase. And be precise. Try to avoid words like nice or good. Good in what way? Good as in effective or good as in morally sound. Use less common words and phrases. So less common lexical items is just less common words and phrases, and show that you know how these words fit together. This is called collocation, something that we look at later in the course. And as you can see, you can make a few mistakes with your vocabulary and still score a band 7, but do try your best to be accurate. Finally, let's look at grammar, grammatical range and accuracy. The range is very important. You must use a variety of complex structures. You must produce frequent error-free sentences, and you must show a good control of grammar and punctuation, but you may make a few errors. Again, plain English here. Use a range of sentence types and word orders. You can use simple sentences too, but do use a range of sentence types. We'll be looking at this later in the course, of course. Avoid making mistakes in the majority of your sentences. You need to be producing a 50% or higher rate of sentence accuracy if you want to achieve a band 7. This is where most candidates fail in this regard. Finally, use commas, colons, and full stops, and semicolons, and question marks, and apostrophes appropriately. Demonstrate that you are comfortable with grammar and punctuation. And yes, you can make a few mistakes, but again, do try your best to be accurate. So, a quick summary. What are the 4 band descriptor categories? Task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource or vocabulary, and grammatical range and accuracy. And what are we trying to do for each band descriptor category in order to achieve a band 7? Well, with the first one, the task response, address all parts of the task, clearly show your opinion, develop your ideas, explain and support these ideas, and use examples to help the reader understand. As for coherence and cohesion, you need to order your essay logically. Link sentences and paragraphs together with cohesive devices or transitional words. Write about one topic only in each paragraph. And stay focused on the task. With regards to lexical resource, you need to show a wide range of vocabulary. You need to be precise with your language. Try to use less common words and phrases and show your understanding of collocation, and aim for accurate spelling and word formation. Finally, we come to grammar. We need to show a range of grammar, both simple and complex. Avoid making too many grammatical mistakes. Use punctuation accurately, and try to aim for a 50% or above rate of grammatical sentence accuracy. The aim of this course then is to help you to achieve each of these criteria. Many of the lessons in this course will be looking at individual criteria points. For example, how to paraphrase or how to use collocations. So each of the lessons in this course is designed to help you achieve Band 7 according to the band descriptors, and we will be looking at some skills which are not mentioned in the band descriptors but will inevitably help you as well. So let's continue with the course and find out exactly how we can achieve Band 7.